Welcome to the Change Energizer Hot Seat Podcast, the place where leaders are dropped into the hot seat to open up about high-stake wins and reveal the trust X factor behind their triumphs. I'm your host, Scott Carley, the Trust Energizer. I believe the confidence that people have in the way you show up, your character and expertise is the real game changer. When trust is high, people and teams don't just perform, they pull off legendary wins. Today's guest is me. That's right. We're going to be talking about Fusion Alignment 90, and my producer, Joey McGirr, is going to interview me. So, man, we're going to have a great time today. Thank you so much for coming. Joey, welcome to the program, man. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thanks, Scott. I'm excited to be back. This is fun. If it was fun last time, this will be fun too.
You know, Joey gets to watch all of my guests, and he puts the podcast together. He cuts all the shorts into pieces, makes me look good, makes you look good. And so I'm deeply in gratitude for all the work that he does. And today, he's going to interview me about one of my projects that I am in love with, Fusion Alignment 90.
Yeah, why don't you tell us what that even is, Scott?
Well, Fusion Alignment 90 was born out of a passion that I have about helping companies that have just gone through a merger or an acquisition. And when a merger and an acquisition happens, there is so much confusion within teams about what is my role now? What is the culture here? What is going on? And we have an answer for that. And there's a couple of tools that I use to help those two teams become functional and in alignment so that the CEO and the board can get the productivity and the money they were dreaming of getting by forming this merger. So that's where it came from. That's what it's all about.
That sounds great. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of merging going on right now, and I hear about it almost every single day on X or see it in the news. You know, there's a lot of private equity stuff going on, you know, where companies are gobbling up companies that they don't even have anything to do with, but they're figuring out ways to bring them together or tear them apart. And so there's a lot of friction that goes on with the individuals that work within these companies. So this sounds like something they could really use.
Oh, yeah, for sure. As a matter of fact, some of my clients have been through mergers and acquisitions, and it's almost like they disappear for a little while, and then they come back with a new brand and a little bit different pitch on what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And so I'm hearing real stories, real live case studies about the good, the bad, and the ugly with a merger and acquisition.
Yeah, I have a friend he works for a bank now, and it's merging. It's actually being gobbled up by another bank, and the other bank doesn't have the role he has at his current bank. And so they're going, well, maybe we'll find you a position, maybe we won't. And I know that's causing a lot of stress for him, not just professionally, but also personally. It bleeds over into his personal life. So that's awesome. Well, let's get into this and let's figure out what's going on. Now, we know that when two companies merge, it can sometimes look great on paper, right? The spreadsheet is laid out and financial models look like they make perfect sense and that whoever's in charge is definitely going to be making money off this thing. But what actually happens to the human energy, the trust, the moment that deal closes?
Yeah, well, everybody has good intentions and good hopes. Most of the time, the employees don't even know what's going on. And all of a sudden, they get a notice. We have been bought out. We're in the middle of a merger, and we are now a part of XYZ, or XYZ is a part of us. And so you're going to have new people coming into your office. And so many times they're not even aware. And the first thing that comes up, you know, we'd like to believe, you know, that whoever put the merger together is thinking, oh, these people are going to be so excited to join in and be a part of our group. But most of the time, it's apprehension. This is change, and this is a little unsettling. My job. Now, I know my job is going to change, and my role, my income, my 401k, where did all those things go? And how? And so there are more questions than answers. And the companies are not always real forthcoming about what all the answers are about my health insurance. What's going to be going on with my health insurance?
Yeah.
And I'm not particularly here. I can't fix those things. But you ask the question, how do people feel? Well, they are juggling between, one guy put it, it was the best of times and the worst of times.
I think his
And
name is
so
Charles
there's,
Dickens. Yeah.
yeah, Charles Dickens. And so it's a real thing. A
Yeah.
lot of people get through it.
You mentioned a key word there, and that was change. And I happen to know a little bit about you. I've known you for over 10 years. I've probably known you. Gosh, I've known you 16 years now. We met in 2010. And you're the change energizer. So this seems like it's right up your alley.
Oh, for sure. I mean, change is happening all the time, whether you want it to happen or you don't want it to happen. Change is taking place, and the quicker that we can get comfortable with the changes that are going on and learn how to ride that out, the better off we are. And I mean, really, if you want to move forward, you want to move into the future. Innovation and change go hand in hand, and the world is changing. Innovation is happening, and if you're not on the treadmill moving with it, you're in trouble. So I love change, but I also know that it can be pretty unsettling for some people.
Yeah, no doubt. Most people do not love change. And most people have a hard time even embracing the concept of change being a good thing, but it can. And especially if you've got the right people in place to help navigate that change to the place that, is good for everyone. It's the win-win-win. So that being said, knowing that change is coming, what are some early warning signs that newly merged leadership might be looking for at the time, or either at the merger or just before a merger? What's that look like? What's that early warning sign that they should be looking for?
Well, one of the first things that happens is key leaders start making decisions about they're going to stay or they're going to leave. And that's a pretty big deal. Sometimes mergers happen because there are key leaders and key employees, people with great talent that are in a company, and they're hoping to acquire that, and the things that made that company they're merging with successful and popular are those people. And if those people aren't pulled into alignment, and if they are not comfortable with how they're being communicated to, then they start looking for greener fields somewhere else, so that now they're in charge of the change instead of somebody else being in charge of the change. So that's a pretty big one. Uh, and then another one is uh, people just not showing up, people not cooperating. I'm sitting, and it's not because they're rebellious or that they're trying to create problems. They just don't know what the lay of the land is now. When
Yeah.
I worked for Brand X, this is what we did on Mondays, and this is what we did every Friday. And now I don't know what the protocol is. I don't know what the rule of thumb is, and so people kind of sit on their hands until they get a word about what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, that could be very difficult because there's so much communication. It's easy to miss things that are going on. And there's even this attitude sometimes of like a us versus them mentality or dynamic that forms. Um, how does the underlying tension stall like a merger and acquisition situation if it isn't addressed immediately? Something like that.
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's a real thing. The us and them just is a natural thing that happens, and occasionally there are some people who can roll with the punches, but that's in a small percentile. Most of the time, people just sit back, and take a big deep breath because they're trying to figure out what's going on. A great manager, a great leader, peers can help bring people into the party, and hey, here's what we're going to do. It's Monday morning. Here's what we normally like to do. What did y'all used to do? And ask questions and pull people into a conversation instead of directing them what to do. And when people feel directed to something, they don't always flow with that, especially if they're an A-type personality. But if they're asked to join, asked to help, asked to be a part of something to move forward, then it goes a lot easier.
Yeah, that goes back to that thing you were just saying a little while ago about at Company X, we used to do it this way. There's a lot of difficulties with tribal information in terms of like, this is how we always did it, even though it wasn't, written down as the rule. It was just sort of how people sort of, one person learned to do it that way. So they train the next person who trains the next person. Nobody ever really created it. It just sort of evolves in the workforce. And so there's some tension that's created with all that. But
And
I have a
there's
question.
turf. There's turf too, because
For sure.
a boss may say, "Hey, now I need to share with these new people. I need you to share with them how you do things." I'm not sharing with them how I do things. Are you kidding? That's my secret sauce. And if I give away my secret sauce, then you may decide I'm not needed. I got to keep an edge up on people. And man, the quicker that can be eased down, and the team can become a team and have some alignment. That's my job. My job is to come in and help all of that tension and friction. Well, we have ways to kind of level the playing field and get everybody onto a new field, and it just helps, brings a lot of positive, good energy and understanding just really quickly to the whole game.
Do you have any examples of how that could happen? Like how you can actually take two teams, maybe in completely competing sports, and bring them onto the same level field and working together? And do you have any examples from that?
Well, we sort of had to do that in the National Speakers Association. When I was president, two-term president for the Austin chapter. And then in my second term, I was asked to be part of the National Chapter Leadership Institute. And we had 36 NSA chapters around the country. And, but at that time, there was a real division between people who were national members of the National Speakers Association, but they were not a member of local chapters. And there were more people that just joined the national, but they were not members of local chapters. Well, local chapters were beefing up and getting some momentum, and there was tension between that. And so I was in the middle of it because I was part of the Chapter Leader Institute that helped all the chapter leaders from around the country and the national board to come together and remarry those two groups. And it took a lot of clarification, a lot of helping them to understand intentions
Hmm.
and reading intentions
Hmm.
and why policies were made up here that sounded crazy to the chapters, and then chapters were making policies, and so
Sounded crazy to the national people. Yeah.
yeah, and so it was a good 2 years of
Wow.
communication and working through it. And old guard, we had some old guard, a lot of great guys, and would come and talk to us, and it was word salad, and we knew it was word salad, and it wasn't working. And finally, some real authenticity began to happen and change in both groups, and we had to facilitate that.
Hmm.
And now it works in so much harmony with each other because the local chapters are a very big part of the national, and the people who are national members, but they're not a part of local chapters, have really changed their attitude and are getting more interested in local chapters around the country. It's great.
That's
It's
awesome.
a process, and you have to work with it. Lots of communication.
Yeah, yeah. And I can't imagine that people would think that this would be a quick fix. It takes time. It especially takes time because you're talking about building trust. When I first heard of the Fusion 90 or Fusion Alignment 90 framework, I thought Fusion Alignment 90. It sounds like a workout regimen, like the P90X or something, right? So explain to me the name. What's this Fusion Alignment 90 even mean? What does the 90 mean?
Yeah, well, Fusion is, it's what we're trying to do. We're trying to fuse two things that are semi-compatible. We're trying to fuse those together. And alignment is to get those people who are misaligned into some kind of alignment. Now, for everybody's listening to this, I would encourage you to go to your team and just ask them the question individually, different key people, what is your job description? What are you hired to do? Because many people were hired to do one thing, and within a couple of years, they're doing something that a small part of what they were hired to do, but a lot of other things too that are not on their original job description. As a matter of fact, they're not on any job descriptions. And one of the things that has to happen with fusion alignment is we have to start clarifying some roles and clarifying really what is your responsibility now. We created this fusion and this merger. Well, what great talent and skill set and processes did we merge into? And so now let's go back and recalibrate that and rediscuss it. And that right there adds quick clarity to what I'm supposed to be doing and what I'm not. Now, 90 is a time frame. Can we do this in 90 days? And all of that depends on a couple of things. Number one, the size of the company. And the more people that we have to influence, if you've got hundreds into thousands, it's not going to happen in 90 days. Okay.
Yeah.
But if you have 50 or maybe 100, then we can do a whole lot in 90 days. More than anything, we can get it moving in the right direction, create a vocabulary and a language and tools that people can grab a hold of, and they can start bringing the alignment a lot quicker.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine even within 90 days, you can develop probably 80 to 90% of the systems, even in a very large organization, that they can then begin to implement that over the course of 6 months, a year, 2 years would start to have that effect where they're becoming a cohesive team. Because, yeah, it's very difficult to do.
Yeah. And part of what we do is we create short video training. And short could be anywhere from 3 minutes to 15 minutes to 20 minutes, usually not long ones, just short videos, so that after I'm gone, they can still tap into that library and refresh themselves. Somebody new comes in, they can get a quick bite of what we're doing and why we're doing it, what it looks like. That's really critical, because I'm not going to stay there forever. I may be there for 90 days or 120 days, depending on what they want and what they need. But the deal is for me to work myself out of a job.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're successful if they don't need you anymore.
Yeah,
Right.
that's right.
They hired you to be able to run their own business.
Yeah.
But this is certainly something that most companies don't specialize in, which is why they need you to come in and help them with that alignment. It made me think about, when you say things like fusion, things coming together, when you talk about alignment, things going in the same direction together, there's a lot of leadership dynamic language that you use there that really appeals to people at leadership levels. How does this appeal to people at that level in terms of like utilizing something like this in order to achieve the goals and results that they're trying to get in the merger?
Yeah, it kind of depends on which end of the stick you're on. I've got friends and business associates who are in the middle of a merger or just went through one or are the victim of one. And they have, just filled my ear with stories and case studies of, oh man, let me tell you, one thing would have happened, it would have made it so much easier for all of us. And if we had a little better communication and some things that we could put our hands on and look at, it would have helped tremendously. So there's a lot out there to be talked about.
Yeah, for sure. What can the leadership do? You mentioned both ends of the stick. The ones that are waving the stick, what are some things they can do early on that can help set you up for success when it comes to bringing you in for an alignment?
Probably number one, just be transparent and say we've had a merger and we have hopes and expectations, but we can't tell you exactly what's going to happen. But here is where we're hoping that we're going to go. And the minute the leader will cast vision so that they can look up and see where this thing is headed, not just a merger, but as a company, we're wanting to dominate the market in X, Y, and Z. And we believe that this merger could be a huge piece in that. And that means that y'all are going to be a huge piece in us as a company hitting the next mark where we're going. People will follow a leader, but they will sacrifice for a visionary. And when a visionary throws things out there about where they're wanting to go and the sacrifices they made to make this merger happen, and I'm hoping that you'll join in. I'm hoping that I can give you enough direction that you'll want to join in. I'm a football fan, and I will unashamed. I am a Tom Brady fan.
Oh, all right.
And and the guy, he won a lot of Super Bowls, but there were times when, out of his 21-year season, winning, what was it, 7 Super Bowls, being in 11, he and the team had to come together and say, this is where we're headed.
Yeah.
And one of his big jumps at the end of his career was he left the New England Patriots and he went to the Buccaneers, and it was and
they have better weather in Florida. Sorry.
Yeah. So, they're going, oh my God, what are you going to do in 1 year? And he pulled that team together and they won a Super Bowl that year.
Yeah.
Amazing. Who does that? Okay.
True leaders.
Yeah. True
Vision
leaders
casters, visionaries.
who know where they're going.
That's right.
And you can't make the team, but you pull the team into it. So I, don't mind telling anybody, I think you should have role models and icons that help you understand what can or cannot be done. He did it in a year and it worked.
Yeah.
So
that's unbelievable. It was what an incredible year that was. So you'd mentioned Tom Brady's the vision caster, right? Let's take it to the other end of the stick. What are some things that the team, the vision caster or his leadership, his lieutenants can do to help get the workers, to communicate honestly? Because sometimes they're too afraid to speak up, and that's really, can hinder an alignment or the ability for them to follow the visionary.
Yeah. One of the things that I really was impressed by, there's an organization called EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, and they're just fantastic about helping entrepreneurs create an operating system for their business. But they have something in there that I have not heard much of, and I was pleasantly surprised to see it there. But in their big meetings, their regular weekly meetings, they have a place for issues. And they ask the question, what are your top 2 issues with this project, this week, today, with people? What are your top 2 issues? And what that does several things. Number one, it lets the team know, the leadership is saying, we know there are issues. We know that issues come up. They're acknowledging that. Number 2, I want to hear what your issues are. Listening. Listening is not a strong trait of a lot of leaders. They don't listen very well. Right. But a great one does know how to listen. And when people feel heard, and when leaders can respond back in a voice that lets them know they were heard, then a lot of times those issues can be ironed out. Those wrinkles can be ironed out, but you can't iron out anything you're not willing to put on the table. And so people have to learn how to put it on the table. And that's a leader's job, to create a place where we can throw a couple of issues out there. Let's talk about them. I think that's really important. And it's a learned skill. Sometimes people come by it naturally, but it's a learned skill. So I think that's a big thing that leaders can do, is give people a chance to voice their concern. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of the Change Energizer Hot Seat. We're taking this to local companies and conferences around town. If your company would like to bring me in to do a hot seat episode, just like we're doing right now, bring one of your key leaders, putting them on the hot seat and asking them 7 or 8 questions about, can I trust you? And let them vet and showcase why they are trustworthy, then give me a call. Reach out to the Change Energizer and let's get into your company and let's really raise the roof, raise the temperature a little bit with the Trust Energizer hot seat.
It is so vital for leaders to have the capacity to listen because, like you said, if there's issues, how are they going to even know to be able to fix those? And again, a lot of times they don't really want to hear them sometimes. And sometimes, and regardless of whether they want to hear them, they need to hear them so they can fix them because that's their job. I remember listening to you talk to Ralph Peterson, and he talked about, manager's job isn't to pick up trash. It's to ensure that the people whose job it is to pick up trash pick up the trash. That's leadership, right? That's management, and managing people is leading people. And so, but when the issues have to come from the top down, when they know there's an issue and it's going to impact the team, how does this system that you've developed help them to handle those hard conversations early, honestly, and without any drama so that they can transition that information to the team politely and effectively?
Yeah, that's having courageous conversations. In my book, Can I Trust You? There's a chapter on courageous conversations. And it's prefaced with how you hire people. And we follow the model of hire like Disney does. Disney does casting calls. Mm-hmm. And casting calls for an engineer, a salesperson, or a character at Disney World. But they call them casting calls. And a person comes in and they vie for that particular role, that casting call, whatever it is. And with that it comes a character. And this character is an engineer or a salesperson or someone who does the accounting or somebody who is an office manager, whatever it is. And they identify that role, the role of the character. So when that character isn't performing their duties and they start missing KPIs, and then a manager or some leader up can come and say, hey, I just need to visit with you because, based on what I'm seeing, it looks like your character, you've gotten out of character. And what we needed was you to be in character to do X, Y, and Z, but that character is not pulling off their responsibilities. So what can we do to get you back into character? Or is there something going on that we just need to, have a discussion about? Well, I find that is a much easier way in dealing with people because you're not attacking them. You're talking about the character that they portray while they're at that company and at that job and in that role. So you have to have it. And there are times when the CEO or somebody says, we're going to have a 10% reduction in force. And I'm sorry, we're having a 10% reduction in force, but my job is to keep this company floating. And when the economy or something else creates that problem, then that's what we have to do. And we are trying to do it as equitably as we can. And they may give the reasons. They may decide not to give the reasons. Anybody who's been at a company very long knows that layoffs are just a reality. Mm-hmm. And we all hope for the best. I think there are some better ways to let people know that they're being laid off than getting it from the news station.
Yeah.
That's not a good way to find out.
Hopefully HR gets to them before the evening news. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the trust credit score talks about your integrity and your values. And we all want to be working for somebody that we share the same good core values with.
Yeah. I actually worked for the Disney Corporation 30 years ago. Well, nearly 30 years ago. And I can account to the fact that, if you get out of character, and I was not on stage as a character, I was sort of half on, half off. And but we were expected to hold a certain level of service if we were on stage. That's what they call it when you're at the theme park and you're actually, able to be seen by the guests in the park. And although my job was not directly guest facing, if I happened to be walking through the park, I had to be in character. And if I was caught not being in character, yeah, I got that talking to. And it's great that they have operationally developed those kinds of things. That was a real win for the Walt Disney Company when they created Disneyland. Walt instituted a lot of operational things. Today in 2026, we call that, that's an operational tool. Back then, that was just Walt being Walt, right? Being just a creative guy going, okay, we're going to put trash cans every 30 feet, and we're going to make sure everybody's clean shaven and has their hair combed, and and is making sure that they got a smile on their face and they're in character. We're going to call it. They didn't call it operational stuff, but that stuff matters, right? So that kind of leads me to my next question, because it's operationally in tone, and that is when sales strategy and execution are all legacy systems from two different companies trying to blend. How does the 90-day rhythm get them moving in the same beat?
Well, the CEO has to help us a lot because I'm depending on them to cast the vision. And when they cast vision and give direction to where we're headed as a company, and then, maybe they can say, so for us to get where we need to go, XYZ needs to happen. And that XYZ includes you. I need your A game. And, we're going to be rolling out some new products or refurbishing some old ones. But there's some things that I need for you. Some of you are brand new, and you're going to have the opportunity to leave your mark in this company about what you contributed. And so there's some things, it's like I said a while ago, people will follow a leader, but they will sacrifice for a visionary. And companies that don't have a vision for where they're headed, even if it's a regional vision, we're a national organization, but over here in the Midwest, we're going back in and we're really getting robust about opening some things. Well, that might not affect everybody in the company, but still they've created a vision.
Yeah. One of the things that, when I think about alignment, I think about my car. When I turn the wheel, my tires turn the same direction, but over time, I have to take my car in to get realigned. The tires become unaligned somehow magically, and
They hit a bump.
and if I don't, it's going to cost me money. And I think that weighs heavily on a lot of CEOs and executives' minds. How is something like aligning through the Fusion Alignment 90 going to help companies save money in the long run?
Yeah, well, I think it's very true that if you're not in alignment, that means you're wasting energy doing other things.
Mm.
And when you can get into alignment, you're in sync with what's going on, and your service, the position that you provide for that company, whatever it is, when it's in sync with where we're headed and everybody understands that, then we become more efficient. And now we're just moving in a better direction, and we're moving faster because we're not having to second guess things, question why did they do that. When we have high trust because we understand where we fit in the game, then the speed of cooperation increases. And when the speed of cooperation increases, that affects efficiency, the bottom line, and how you make more money with less effort. So if people are out of alignment, again, sometimes they were hired to do one thing, and now they're unseemly expected to do something else, but they're not really clear about what they're supposed to do and what they're not. And so we just start tearing it down. I was a part of an organization a few years ago that had 3 divisions, 17 departments, and 65 ministries. It was a big organization, and I was in charge of that operational flow chart. And among the things that we did, we had a big conference where people from around the world came in, and we took all 65 of those ministries, all 65 of those business entities, and each one of them had to put together a detailed what our job purpose is, who it is for, what we hope to accomplish. And there were tables set out, handouts. so that all those people from around the world could come into that auditorium and see signs of whatever this ministry was, and they could go to it, get a handout, so they knew exactly what was going on. That was a big deal for the people who were putting it together. I didn't put all that together. I told them, I need to know exactly who you are, why you do what you do, who you serve, what your purpose is. And it was great.
You were casting
Companies
the
should
vision.
go through that occasionally.
Oh yeah. Well, that's kind of like doging a company if you think about it. Hey, right? What do you do here? That's pretty funny. And not only does that explain to the leadership their value, what they do, and who they serve. It also helps the people that are in those ministries know exactly what they do. It gives them guardrails, but it also gives them tangible benchmarks, right? Like, oh, this is the goal we're trying to hit. This is the accomplishment we're shooting for within our little tiny bubble within this larger organization. So let's talk about benchmarks real quick. How can an executive or board director measure the success of something like a 90-day alignment?
So KPIs have been around forever, key performance indicators, and those could be financial key performance indicators. Those could be production. Was it ahead of schedule and under budget? They can measure that. And then they can take the temperature of the people. Are they happy to be there? Are they having a good time? When people are having fun at work, then they get more done, and it's a better situation. But some of that is KPIs, key performance indicators, and then the
Yeah.
trust credit score. When people are evaluating one another in a good way, and they can see that a person's trust credit score has gone up. In other words, the confidence that your peers have in you, in your vibe, your intentions, your core values, your expertise, and your track record. When they can see that going up because you've made 1%, 2%, 3% improvements on each of those, then it shows up. And when that is happening, it affects the bottom line. And that's the whole point. Again, people need to be reminded of that. We are a company that is in business to make a profit.
Yeah.
And so we want to make a profit.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So what's the first diagnostic question that an executive should be asking if they're finding that their team is just not clicking?
Well, what does clicking look like? Number one,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
because when somebody tells me that my team's just not clicking, really. So what does clicking look like? Well, clicking looks like, and sometimes they can't even answer their own question. But
Sure.
they know something is off, and then it can become part of my job or somebody else's to begin to throw out some things. So are you looking for this? Oh yeah, I'm looking for that. Are you looking for this? No, I don't really care about that. Oh, okay. Good to know. What are you looking for? And so when we have the back and forth conversation, then we can find out uh, where they want to go. Sometimes what they find out is, oh, I didn't realize that was happening. Okay, I feel better. I feel better about what's going on. I thought they made presumptions, but once we were able to go down through the pieces, then they can decide how much we are on or off track and what would on track look like.
Yeah. I've worked with organizations where for weeks and months something felt off and we could not put our finger on it. And it wasn't until somebody like you came along and said, let's sit down and answer the questions. What does it feel like when it is clicking, right?
Yeah, there's one of the tools that I use is called the Fascination Advantage Personality Profile, and it is was developed by a branding expert. And one of the 7 advantages that's out there is called mystique. And mystique is a personality style that is they don't talk much, but they are paying attention. And they look, if they're in a board meeting, they don't speak up very much. They're just looking around, listening, paying attention. And when they finally do speak up, you go, whoa, man, you have been listening and paying attention. So I did that training at a construction company in Louisiana. And so as we were winding up, the owner of the business said, well, we want to try to improve some things around here, and does anybody want to offer a suggestion? And two mystiques immediately raised their hands, and he called them and he said, man, we never hear from you. And he said, yeah, you've never called on me. And so I and offered a really great suggestion. And everybody could tell that he had been listening and paying attention to what was going on in the meeting. And the business owner said, I think that's a great idea. I just had no idea. Then he called on the other one, and the other one did a very similar thing. There are people who have a mystique personality, and they won't initiate a discussion about some things, but if they're ever asked, then they'll open up. And that's one of the reasons that I do that personality profile, and I want the leaders to see it going on, because it needs to become their job to bring a mystique into the meetings, and then about middle way, look over at that mystique and say, tell us what we're missing. And the mystique person will talk about it. And it otherwise it could just go right over everybody's head. They never even know what's going on.
Yeah. Boy, that is such a powerful tool. You talk about the fascination advantage. You talk about the trust credit score. You have all of these tools that go into your Fusion Alignment 90. What are some high level tools that you just love using every time that really gives you great results?
Priority management. We're going to talk about time management. What are your key roles? And that's a big, when you're clear about what you're supposed to be doing, it's easy to say no to everything else. But if you're not clear about what you're doing, then anything can distract you. So priority management, focus on what matters, is a tool that I use almost everywhere I go, because it's a need. People need to understand their priorities.
Yeah, I've heard you speak on that many times, and I've actually implemented a lot of the things that you've taught. So thank you. It is critical to having that in your life. I have a question that just came to mind, and that is, does your system help provide for, say, a manager who's coming in from one company who's required to lead a team of the one they merged with, who lost their leader in the merger, and how to help them really onboard and ramp up trust quickly?
For sure. One of the things that there's a couple of tools that we use. One, the Fascination Advantage. Immediately, that person will understand who's on his deck now and have a better understanding about how they operate, why they operate in their thinking and in their interpretation of what they bring to the table, and how they respond to different things. That's the first thing. The other thing is the trust credit score. And the trust credit score will give him or her personally a way to just privately, pull out the trust credit score and, just look at somebody and in their mind's eye, okay, their vibe. Let me see what their vibe is. Is their vibe on point? Are their motives straight up solid? Are they good? Yeah, okay. Are they on the same page with their values and morals, integrity? Okay. Are they even built for this? Their skill set, proven skills and problem solving. All right. And their receipts, their track record. And that person, he or she, can go through that and for themselves understand where this person is struggling or where they're doing really great. And then be able to develop a conversation about helping them to raise their trust credit score. Most people don't know they have a trust credit score. And when we introduce the language of that, and now people are aware of it, we also introduced a thing called Trust Accelerators. And these are things that if any one of those areas, 5 areas, you feel like your score is lower than it needs to be, then let's talk about ways that you can accelerate trust in that area and be proactive and intentional about raising your trust credit score with the people that you work with. That's a big deal. And that gives a leader a way to help people move up and become more valuable and better at what they do without castigating them and being mean.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's so spot on for what people need in those kinds of situations. Because, like we've been saying throughout this whole thing, these are stressful times and they need tools that they don't have that you can come in with and say, have you tried this? Have you tried this? Or how, I love that you said that, people don't know they have a trust credit score. I think people do know that they have a trust credit score, but they don't have the language behind that. They don't have an understanding of that they control that they can actually affect how they're perceived and the level of trust that people can have in them. They control that to some
Yeah.
degree. Yeah.
Yeah. We say that a lot of people have what we call a gut feeling. They have a gut feeling that they do or don't trust somebody. And my granddad used to say, my grandma used to tell me, or my mom, or I learned from whatever. And I'm not saying that those are not accurate, but part of what the trust credit score does is it recalibrates it. And it recalibrates where trust actually comes from. And it can be measured, it can be improved, or it can decrease. And once people recognize that and we recalibrate it, based on the science of how it happens, then that gut feeling now is more calibrated. And now you know why you feel the way you do. And when you can point to it out of the 5 areas of the trust credit score, it makes everything much easier to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. I've spent days with you at workshops where you've gone over all of this, not just this information, but so much more. There's no way we could cover all of this in a short conversation today. How can people get a hold of you to, stop the drift, lift the fog, get their team back on track and in sync to help with whether it's layoffs or mergers or anything, even just regular every old day alignment?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of ways to get a hold of me. Number one is if you'll go to calltheenergizer.com. That is my scheduler. You can get on my schedule, and I'd love to have a Zoom call with you, and I'll just ask questions. You tell me what's going on, and we'll figure out how to help you. If you go to fusionalignment90.com, that will specifically tell you a little bit about what Fusion Alignment is all about, a few nuts and bolts about how it works, and then you're going to say, okay, I guess I need to talk to Scott, and there'll be a place for you to book a call with me. And let's just visit. And if you need me, then I'll come in and we'll figure it out. Whether you need me for 90 days or longer or what you want to do, I'm here to help you and help you figure out how big the problem is or how little the problem is. But there's a better solution than they'll figure it out. That is not a good solution. That's not a strategy.
Or just feeling like it's not clicking and continuing to go down that path unaligned, because that's going to cost you money, and definitely aligning will make you more money in the long run.
Yeah. And that's the point. The point is, when somebody has a merger or an acquisition, somebody is up there, fascinating about, oh, this is going to be the best thing. We're pulling these 2 companies together and man, we're going to make the magic happen. It's going to be great. And on paper, it looks good, and you've got some people that are excited about it. But boy, when the news settles in, unsettling feelings come up because people don't really know what's going on. And so it doesn't always turn out. As a matter of fact, if you do the research on it, 70 to 80% of mergers don't hit their outcome like they wanted. Mm-hmm. And most of that is because they won't address the culture issues and the misalignment of people in places. So, boy, let me help you get 6 months ahead of schedule in what that merger is going to do.
That's awesome. Any last thoughts you want to share about this before we go ahead and wrap this up?
No, I'm good. I think we've covered a lot of material today. I know that when, just as I said, when there's a merger or an acquisition, people are very, very excited. But it doesn't end when you sign the paper and it's official. That's really your commencement. Mm-hmm. And so let me help you with your commencement.
Excellent. Well, I want to say thanks for being here today, Scott, but this is your show, so why don't you thank me for being here?
Well, Joey, thank you. This guy is my producer. And really, he is the one that makes the magic happen with the Change Energizer podcast. Joey, you have been a lifesaver. You know, when I wrote my book, and you helped me with that, and you said, Scott, the fastest way to get that book out there is to have a podcast. And so that's exactly what we did. We started this podcast, and it has been rocking and rolling for almost a year. You know somebody who would love to be on a podcast. If you would love to be on this podcast, contact me and we'll talk about it. It's all built around the Can I Trust You, the Trust Credit Score system. And so we would definitely love to hear from you. If you think this would be a great presentation to your company, to your leadership team about a fusion and alignment, whether you're in a merger and acquisition or not, contact me, because I come in all the time, do these kind of presentations to a team to start a conversation and provide language to help you get where you want to go. So Scott Carley, the Change Energizer, calltheenergizer.com. That's how you find me.